Today I'm going to talk about late model Mazdas and their Skyactiv technology. You see it plastered all over the place. In this case it's in a CX-5 crossover. You can see it says Skyactiv here too. Now of course it's an advertising slogan, as most slogans are, but it actually stands for something. It's a combination of a bunch of technologies to get more power, more fuel efficiency, and better handling. Now this particular CX-5, it's the luxury model, which is what you'd want to buy if you're buying one, because the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine is kind of a dog. It doesn't have enough horsepower. But when this 2017 came out, the 2-liter was mated with a standard transmission. So hey, they were still making standard transmissions. To me, hey, that's a plus for Mazda. Because throughout history, Mazda has had tons of problems with their Jatco purchased automatic transmission. Company that Nissan owns, Jatco has a long history of making crappy automatic transmissions. Now being a luxury model, this Mazda, it's got the 2.5-liter engine and an automatic 6-speed transmission. And I know people are going to say, Scotty, you said don't buy a Mazda because their automatic transmissions stink. Well yeah, they used to stink because they were Jatco transmissions. But this baby has a Mazda designed and built automatic transmission. It's called an FW6A-EL automatic transmission. Yeah, stupid name, I agree, but that's what it's called. But this transmission is not made by Jatco, it's made by Mazda. It's an interesting transmission because it contains a torque converter like a normal automatic transmission, but it also contains a clutch like in a standard transmission. With its 6 speeds, it allows you to have plenty of power and good gas mileage, and it even has a manual shifting mode. As you can see here, there's drive. You can shift into the manual mode. We can go down or up gears when you're driving quite quickly. It doesn't have the lag that some of these manual shifting automatics have, and it's nothing like those slip and slide CVT transmissions that Jatco often produced. I do have to give Mazda kudos on this. They don't use CVT transmissions. They're going to these fancy automatics in their Skyactiv technology, which I think is a big plus. Here Mazda's playing on their other advertising slogan, Zoom Zoom. They want to make little cars that go zoom zoom. They don't go zoom zoom if they have a transmission that slips, then they go zoom slip zoom. So their engineers have made a transmission that fits their philosophy. And I haven't seen any problems with this yet. This one's 3 years old. No problems at all with it. I haven't seen them have breakdown problems like the Jatco transmissions do. Now the other main part of the Skyactiv technology is the engine. We'll take the stupid crappy beauty cover off so you can see inside. It has a usual coil-on plug, and it's also a GDI engine with gasoline direct injection. And it's got a solid chain for reliability, as you can see by the sign here. This car actually is made in Japan. Let's face it, the best Japanese cars are still made in Japan. Even Jatco with their automatic transmissions. The worst transmissions I see that they make are the ones that are produced in Mexico and in China. They're not even making that stuff in Japan anymore. And if you're like me and you want to buy a Japanese car, you want one made in Japan. You don't want one made in China or Mexico. You're paying for a Japanese car, you should get one that's built by Japanese people. Now one reason I like this particular Mazda is because it has the 2.5 GDI engine in it, but it is not turbocharged. They didn't offer turbocharging in these until 2019. Personally, I would not buy a 2019. Yes, I would have no qualms about buying this 2017. I have to admit, it's got a pretty sporty interior. The back seats look pretty good. It's got a lot of trunk space inside. Lots of room inside here. And it does handle quite well. I was talking about how RAV4s are well made. This thing out handles a RAV4 by far. There's no arguing that. And personally, I can't wait to see what the future will bring. Very interesting technology. 6-speed automatic transmission holds up over time. Toyota, on the other hand, is having problems with a lot of their 8-speed automatics that they're using. So who knows what the future will bring? I never advised people in the past to buy them because they look good, but they didn't hold up. Well, with this new technology that they've thrown in, if that automatic transmission holds up for years and years, this one's 3 years old and it's still holding up quite well, I changed my opinion on telling people whether or not to buy them. Mind you, Scotty's a conservative guy, so I'm still gonna wait till they're 5, 8 years old, see what the history of the transmissions are. I personally don't trust anything until it's been out there for a long time. Because if you think about it, there's a big difference between spending 30-something grand on a car and spending 800 bucks on a phone. Okay, yeah, you get tired of the phone, new technology comes out, you buy another phone, 30-something thousand dollars. You're in another ball game then. And as I've always said, I'm not a big fan of turbos because things wear out faster. In these 2019 and newer, you can get a 2.5 four-cylinder that has a turbo. I wouldn't advise doing that. This thing's got plenty enough pickup with GDI. As you can hear for a four-cylinder car, it's quiet, it's smooth, but when you step on the gas, it's got some zoom to it. And realize that this Skyactiv technology in this engine is pretty much Mazda technology. The problem that the Mazda engines had in the past was they had a lot of Ford VVT technology in them. I saw them broken, I took them apart. I saw that they had Ford Motorcraft parts on the systems. These things are Japanese design now. And for what I've seen, they're much better than when they were making them with Ford. Perhaps this is one of the reasons behind that Toyota Mazda dual plant that they have in Alabama. They're finishing it up now. They got a merger between Toyota and Mazda, making Toyota and Mazda vehicles on the same exact assembly line. Maybe Toyota's onto something here. Mazda Miata, the only two-door roadsters that sold more than 1 million worldwide. Now, how did they sell so many? Considering they have relatively tiny engines. It's a 1.8 liter inline four-cylinder engine. It only puts out 128 horsepower. Better than the original 115, but hey, no rocket. Now, at least this model came with a manual transmission. It's a 5-speed. If you get one of these, especially the old ones, the automatics are dog, and they broke all the time. Do not get an older one with an automatic. But these manual transmissions are pretty bulletproof. They're a classic roadster. Engine in the front, transmission, and then strictly rear wheel drive. You get more miles per gallon in this car than just about any car out there. No, you're not going to beat too many people in drag races. That's not what this thing is for. This is a fun little 2-seat convertible for cruising around in. What I really like about it, is what a lot of people hate, is you can get them real basic. Hand crank windows. And do you have to worry about the tops motor braking? No, it doesn't have a motor. Top up, snaps on the inside. Then when you want it down, top down. And sure, it's got a little trunk, but at least it has a trunk. The trunk is not storing the convertible top. There's a reasonable amount of room in it. Now, this 94 Miata was just purchased for $4,500 in the shape you see it now. The main reason he paid $45,000 was because he got the hard top with it, matching red, that snaps on. Some of those hard tops in the shape his, which is original shape, the top alone will go for $2,000. You get tired of a rag top, you can put that hard top on in the winter. A lot of people don't like rag tops because they're noisy. You got a rag top. You drive by a diesel truck with the rag top up, you hear all the noise. But with a hard top, no. Now, that's one reason a lot of the modern cars are convertibles, but they have hard tops that fold on and off, but they use machines to do it. Hydraulics are very complex, cost a fortune to fix when they break. The top for this just snaps on. He's got it stored in his garage because he's not using it now. You can put it on whenever you want, and then you don't have to deal with all that noise. So basically, you got a hard top and a soft top in one car. Now, a lot of people negated these things saying, oh, it's a girly car. The main reason they sell so many is because they're fun to drive, and as we started up, realize they can run an indefinite period of time. This particular one has 155,000 miles. Listen to that engine. Doesn't shake, not particularly loud. As the Japanese cars, almost everything still works. Turn on the AC. Still blows cold. Power steering still works fine. Still gets good gas mileage. Most everything is still stock on it. Back in those days, 94, Mazda made some of the worst automatic transmissions in the world. This is a standard. You don't have to worry about any of that automatic transmission crap. Like I said previously, I wouldn't buy one with an automatic. They're dogs. But if you are going to buy an old one with an automatic, pay a guy like me to check it out before you do. You have to. Because if that transmission's going out, you don't want to buy the car. I've had people buy the automatic transmission car, throw the tranny away and put a standard transmission instead. Nothing wrong with that if you don't mind doing all that work. Typical well-built Japanese car. Change the oil every 5,000 miles, the coolant once every 5 years or so. They can last forever. And with this, there's only one thing you got to worry about. This has a rubber timing belt. So you want to change the timing belt every 100,000 miles. Modern ones, of course, have timing chains, but all these old ones, they had timing belts on them. Take the plastic crap off. It's very easy to change these timing belts. I've done a bunch of them. I could probably change the timing belt in this thing in an hour, hour and a half. They're very easy to work on. The cams are here, the crank's down there. Lots of working room. You could do it yourself, and if you do pay a mechanic, don't overpay. Shop around, because this is a very easy car to do. It's a double overhead cam engine with one timing belt inside it. They're very easy to change. Now, before these cars were made, I had a friend. He said, I love English sports cars. A lot of people do, but they break down. They're made like crap. Somebody should make an English sports car that has a Japanese engine in it. Well, Mazda went one better. They built the whole car, the Mazda Miata, and people bought them in droves. Now, of course, there is an English sports car out there with the Toyota engine. The little Lotuses, they upgraded them a little, but one I had here the other day, hey, it only had 30 more horsepower than the Matrix. The main thing is they're small, light cars, they're fun to drive around, and that's what this is. Now, normally checking out a used car like this, you know, I'm gonna hook up my scan tool and do a bunch of tests, right? Well, this is a 94, it's OBD1. So most of that stuff is useless. I gotta use my head and years of experience to check one of these out. But if you are gonna check one of these babies out, the first thing you wanna do, just turn the key on, don't start the car. Make sure that the check engine light comes on. When you start the car up, the check engine light's supposed to come on. If it's not on, it means somebody removed the bulb, and it might have a lot of problems. Then what you do is you start the car, and of course the light should go off, which it did. The brake's only on because I got the brake on there. Now that's off too. So with this Miata, we know the light's there, the system's working. And as we drive around, we just watch. If that check engine light comes back on while you're driving, there's a problem. And then you'd want to have it checked out before you bought it. Form like this one, they're pretty quiet. When you rev it up, they really don't make that much noise, and most people like it that way, but you can put in loud mufflers, whatever you want to do. That's your choice. They're quiet enough that nobody's thinking twice when you're driving it around. Check it out. And I do literally mean check it out. You want to check them out. It's not that they break on their own much, but if they're broken, it's often signs of massive front end damage. I wouldn't buy it. Being a sports car, they're pretty low to the ground. Not outrageous, but you can see this one has been repainted. There's the overspray. They forgot to take the tape off after they did the job. But I gotta say, they did a pretty good job painting it. The car itself looks good. It was repainted before because I can see the tape marks here on the pillar. But they did a pretty good job repainting it, I gotta say. But even though it's a 29-year-old car, hey, the chrome is still in good shape. They made a good job when they built these things. Original wheels, you could paint them over to make them look a little nicer. But it even came with these decent tires already on it. And even though it's a small car, it's still pretty solid built. Listen. New cars don't even sound that solid. So let's take it for a spin. This is what makes these cars so much fun. A little open-air roadster. When you get to the cars, they're fun for spinning around in. You can have a lot of fun in one of these things. You don't need to go a million miles an hour. It just feels like you are with the top down and being low to the ground. Easy, smooth shifting. These things are just a lot of fun to drive around. And even though it's a two-door roadster, it's extremely dependable. You see many of them still going. Even though a lot of kids drive and rag the heck out of them, they keep going down the road. They got excellent balance. Sure, they're not perfect like a mid-engine or rear-engine car, but hey, they are a lot of fun to drive around. And like I said, they're no drag cars. We'll go full speed now. I mean, they go down the road, but they're not going to break any land speed records. They're just a lot of fun. They're not going to leave you stranded. You get tired of the rag top, you can put the hard top back on. Hey, it's an all-around fun little car. Now, the speedometer is overly optimistic with this 140. The real top speed of this thing is 118 miles an hour, and you're really pushing at that. But it is just so much fun to drive around. It makes the regular speed limits when you got the top down feel like you're speeding anyway. So, who cares? This is not a race car. It's a fun car that you can drive for a really long time for a really low price. I mean, he only paid $4,500 for this thing. And the only thing he did to it was polish the tires and detail it to make it look snappy. And as you can see while I'm road testing, when I floor it, I don't hear any backfiring. And when I let go of the gas, it decelerates smoothly, it doesn't jerk, and it doesn't backfire. If it's backfiring, jerking, hey, you don't want to buy something like that. Because there's so many of these out there that are still in excellent shape because they were so well built. As long as they got this manual transmission, and you don't have to deal with the crappy automatics that Mazda has built over the years. Let's face it, this thing is basically a go-kart for adults. You can have a lot of fun in these things for a very small amount of money. Look at that. Handles like a dream, even though it's almost 30 years old. Now, there's plenty of ragged out ones that you can buy that are a lot cheaper than this, like this one here that my grandson bought. But if you could find one in this kind of shape that looks and runs like this and also has a hard top for $4,500, you're getting a sweet deal. You could have a toy for a while and then sell it on to somebody else. This isn't like some English or Italian or German sports car that's an endless money pit, that's a bomb waiting to explode, and if it explodes on you, you're the one who's got to pay for it all. These are very dependable cars. You buy one like this that's solid and good, hey, it's a decent investment. Really, the only thing that doesn't work in this is the radio. And hey, it's a junky radio anyways. He's going to put a nice Android in soon. They're interesting cars. They were well made. You can get them dirt cheap. Although not a new one dirt cheap. The Miata Club fancy one with Brembos and stuff is $35,800. So they're not giving them away. But these used ones, for that kind of money, $4,500, the average new car costs about $45,000. You get 10 of these for one of those. He paid 20 grand for this thing brand new. Now, sure, it's not rear wheel drive like the new one's going to be, it's front wheel drive. But on the other hand, the best gas mileage you ever got was going 76 miles an hour, and he got 42 miles a gallon. And he gets in the high 30s all the time, driving it normally on a highway. Now, I gotta say, it's a beautiful car, especially in this candy apple red. He does have a ding here. He was putting a camper top on his truck, and it fell and hit it. And then somebody dinged his door here, but I mean, what can you do about that? We get inside. It does not look like the interior of a $20,000 car. It's black and chrome. It looks nice. And it's got a 6-speed standard. It does have the modern technology of electric parking brakes and that crazy stuff. But the little panel here is integrated into the dash. It's not sticking way up like some of those Toyotas do. And there comes a little Mazda. Of course, let's give you a warning. Cruise control, everything on the nice small steering wheel. I like a small steering wheel. Now, it is pretty much a sports sedan. There's plenty of room for people. And it's pretty luxurious for a $20,000 car, really. Now, he's mad because it doesn't have a button to pop the trunk. You gotta pull a release button. It's got a humongous trunk. Hello in there. I like mechanical stuff. It doesn't break. You get an electronic trunk opener and it breaks. Good luck. This is simple. Simple technology. And as you can hear, it's solid. All the lines, unlike a Tesla, line up. It's a beautiful looking car. And you know why? Check the sticker. Check it out. This baby was made in Japan. That's what you want. Sad but true. The Japanese have a certain Zen thing going on in Japan. They make them better there. That's just the way that it goes. They're serious about the stuff. They care about the stuff. Unlike a bunch of the crap they're now making in Mexico and shipping them over here, people are treated better. They're seen as a family. They don't have wide gaps. They don't rattle. They run and run and run. They don't burn oil. They get good gas mileage. As we go under the hood of this one, this is the Skyactiv technology. It's a 4-cylinder engine. Take this stupid beauty cover off and we'll throw it in the grass. There it goes. It's a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. They're really well-made engines. Of course, they got timing chains on them, not rubber timing belts. I don't know why they want to hide the stuff. I like looking at the technology, but that's the way that it goes. And of course, it's got anti-lock brakes and all that stuff on it. Now, just for fun's sake, I'd love to get my hands on one of the new 2023s. Whenever somebody gets one, contact me and bring it over here. I'll even wash and wax it for you. If you bring it to me to look at, I'd like to try it out. But for $20,000, This is a fun zoom car to drive around. What are you going to get for 20 grand these days, you know? Even a little Mavericks, they said they were going to be under 20. The cheapest one I've ever seen was $26,000. And it doesn't drive like this thing does, or get this kind of gas mileage. Now they got high compression engines. They're 13-to-1. It's a Skyactiv technology. But don't think you have to buy premium gas. He runs regular gas on it, gets a great gas mileage, and it runs perfectly fine. The Mazda engineers knew what they were doing. They've designed it so you can have a high compression engine, but still use regular gas. The computer controls on modern cars have gone a long way since I was a mechanic in the 60s. If you would have told somebody back then something to have this much horsepower and be able to get that kind of gas mileage, they'd think you were insane. It's got 186 horsepower, 186 pound-feet of torque, and for a car this size, it's not particularly big, and it's not particularly small. It's just kind of like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It's just the right size. They have a lot of zip and still get really good gas mileage. Now, of course, I have to admit I'm prejudiced. This is a standard transmission car. They're more fun to drive. They're cheaper to fix. They're still okay with the automatics, but nothing like these standards. They're a lot of fun to drive around, and that's probably one of the reasons he got it so cheap, because so many people can't drive standard transmissions anymore that you can get a really good price on them because most people don't know how to drive the things. And it's not that hard to do. Watch that video that I made using the Mazda Miata when I had one in Houston, a brand new one I was trying out, and it shows you how to drive a standard. And believe me, you watch that video, you can learn how to drive a standard in probably 10 minutes if you already know how to drive. And as a matter of fact, the owner of this car made a little extra income by teaching people how to drive standards on it. People want to know, they brought it in. It's not hard. Now, go back in the day on my father's day, manual transmissions, brakes that had no power assist. Can you imagine learning to drive on one of those? And it's a standard transmission. And many of them had 3 on the tree. The shifter is on your steering column. These things are easy to drive. The shift is right down smooth in the middle. It's numbered in case you forget. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in reverse. It's not hard to learn if you already know how to drive. Don't ever let that scare you away from buying a car, because one, you're going to get a much better deal. You're going to have a lot more fun driving around. And of course, if you ever kind of get stuck somewhere, nothing's better than a manual transmission. You can rock it, you can go back and forth. If it's slipping too much, you don't start out in first gear, start out in second gear. Then the wheels won't have as much torque and it won't spin as much. He's in Missouri, it snows in Missouri. He does have a set of 4 snow tires because he likes driving hard. That's why he bought this car. And he has a lot of fun driving around and not losing. But to give you a perfect example, I got a friend in Buffalo and he's got one. He didn't put snow tires on in winter. Now, mind you, a few weeks ago when it snowed, I just went through Buffalo and they had that 6-7 feet of snow in one day. He didn't go out then. He waited till the snow plows came. But it wouldn't matter what you had on these because the big 18-wheelers will even get stuck. When there's that much snow, it doesn't matter what kind of tire tread you have, you're not going to be able to drive through until the snow plows push the feet of snow out of the way. Now, I asked him about complaints. He said his only one really was that it didn't have a button on the key to pop the trunk. And that doesn't have a sunroof, but he was kind of joking about the sunroof. They're annoying, they leak. It's either too hot or too cold to have them open. And if you leave it open and you forget, water gets in, mosquitoes get in. So I actually think the lines look better without a sunroof. I think they ruin the looks of a car. And this is such a nice looking car. Why would you want to put a hole in the top of it? Like the hole in my tooth since my hockey tooth fell out. Now we'll close the hood, take it for a spin. So you notice it's extremely quiet. It really is a nice sports sedan, I gotta say. I haven't seen anything like this for $20,000 in a long time, but that was back in the day when people were making $1.10 an hour. And it handles really well. I forgot to tell him to turn, so his infotainment system's down, so he's got to get that fixed. Just happened, so he's got to try to reset it to get that going. Sometimes a bit too much technology. Screeching halt here, and here we go. On your mark, get set, go! Well, I heard those tires squeal. This is a fun little car. And even though it handles well, it's not too tight. It rides quite well too. Okay, we're resetting the car by restarting it, and here it comes. It's coming back. A minor glitch, who knows? Something happened, but it's working now. I do have to say I'm utterly impressed by a $20,000 car that rides around like this, doesn't burn oil. If you don't push it, you get 40 miles a gallon on the highway. What's not to like about that? Why aren't they making them anymore? Because everybody's got SUV on the brain. 2023, they're going to be making the straight 6-cylinder one. I guess some of them are going to be hybrid too, with rear wheel drive. I guess they might have the option of all-wheel drive. They haven't decided yet, I guess. The regular ones, they're not going to be making. He paid 20 grand for this. When the fancy one comes on, I can just about guarantee you they're going to be $50,000 to $90,000. Just because it's a unique situation where somebody wants a rear-wheel drive sports sedan. They're going to pay money. They're going to ask enough to begin with, and then there'll be a limited amount called up dealers. Nobody has them. I said, do you know if you're going to get them? The salespeople, they didn't know anything. Then they asked other people, they didn't know anything. And eventually I realized nobody knows anything at the dealerships about them. So good luck if you're going to try to find one, because there aren't going to be that many out, and they're going to charge a lot of money for them. And it won't be a cheap bowl of fun like this. It would be an expensive bowl of fun that would be hard to find, so they'll probably mark the heck out of them. But really, to have this much fun in a car that looks this good for $20,000, you can't go in the past and buy one, but if you can find a used one of these things out there, my advice is go right ahead and buy it. Now, the standards are a lot more fun, but the later model ones, of course, Toyota owns 20-something% of Mazda, and a lot of the Toyota technology has gone into transmissions and stuff, and even their automatic are a lot better than they used to be. Still making these things in Japan. They're quality cars. You're looking for a good, fun used car, if you can find one. Like I always say, have a mechanic check out, you know, if they're wrecked, flooded, stolen, whatever, but these can be excellent cars for driving around. You can have a lot of fun and get good gas mileage at the same time. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.